Collaboration is a common word that's used in the sciences, and it can mean many different things. To me, successful collaboration happens organically. You find two people who have similar goals and sufficiently diverse skill sets.
I'd say collaboration is not an end in itself. And instead of saying shared interest, I'd be stronger. I'd say shared passion.
Yes.
I mean, really shared driving vision.
First time I met Harald was actually when I interviewed at Bell. And I remember saying, "Can I see that Howard guy again?" I relied on him a lot. Basically, I knew I found my doppelganger pretty quickly. Yeah. Get up in the morning, and we race to the lab at like 4:30 and see who can get the closest spot. And then when the sun rose, we would go off to play tennis, and then we come back to our lab, and then we would work until after dinner, basically 7 days a week.
Over and over, weekends included.
Yes, yes.
Go back, whatever it was, 150 years ago. That was a time when people just learned the actual limits of regular optical microscopes.
You can get to a certain level, and it's a lot better than you're doing, but you're not going to do better than this particular level. And that level was the diffraction limit. The problem in detecting a signal molecule is all of the background light that's around. My near-field microscope could focus so tightly that I could see single molecules. And that was one of the things which would ultimately lead to the Palm idea.
What Palm does is it breaks a certain limit that standard microscopes have had for almost a century. And so you can see things at a level of detail that before was not possible.
The most satisfying event of my career, if not my life, was, in retrospect, euphoric months of the two of us working together to build that microscope in his living room and then test it out in Jennifer's lab.
You know, given that amount of time, just a few months.
Yeah.
What got put together in a few months, I think is, is pretty
And
amazing.
there's no way I could have done it without him. No way I would have had the courage to do it without him.
Yeah, vice versa too.
Yeah. Again, I have a family I love. There is not a human on earth that understands me as well as he does, not even close. And I would venture vice versa as well. Okay, maybe your mom, okay?
Yeah, okay.
He's taking the fifth.
Yeah.